Four comedians are also real good friends, working on jokes, the fun never ends. They're asking each other, is this anything?
Jarret, did you get a haircut?
I did not.
Oh.
I just look like a crazy person.
Oh, well, I thought it looks good.
Yeah. Oh, really?
A hot crazy person.
All right. That's my vibe. That is
Yeah.
a hot, crazy person.
Ted Bundy.
That works.
I had a one panel comic that I drew where it's a woman asking a man, "Did you get a haircut?" And the guy goes, "No, it's just falling out."
Did you get a haircut just here? And just miss this middle part?
Did you go to a barber and ask them to pluck individual hairs out from like 20% of this area?
Did you go to one of those eyebrow threading places and tell them that this was your eyebrow?
Before we get started, can I tell you guys something funny that happened yesterday?
No, let's get started.
This is not.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Is This Anything? Okay, sorry. Tell their story.
Yeah, this is not. There's no way this could be a comedy bit. So I just wanted to tell you guys because I thought it was funny. So, Kirsten, it was Kirsten's birthday yesterday, so we got stoned and went to the park. And while we were sitting in the park, I was talking about re-upping, and I've got a pretty solid tolerance for weed edibles. Like I'm kind of comedically boasting to Kirsten regularly that I don't have an upper limit, that there's no such thing as me taking too much weed edibles. Like I can handle whatever she can throw at me. And so while we were out in the park, I was going to re-up, and she's like, "Is that a good idea?" And I was like, "Isn't there like a saying like never tell a sailor they've had too much to drink, because only a sailor knows when they've had too much to drink? That's how I am with weed." And she's like, "That's not an expression, though." And I was like, "No, but it is an expression. Like, I've heard it somewhere before. Like, it's like, it's in the movie Caddyshack. I know." And so I think they put it in the movie Caddyshack because it's like a thing that people say, you know? And she's like, "I don't think it is. If it's in the movie Caddyshack, they just wrote it for Caddyshack." And I'm like, "No, that's not how they used it in the movie Caddyshack. In the movie Caddyshack, they used it like it was an expression."
Right.
And so then I Googled it, and I was like, we'll get to the bottom of this. Google, never tell a sailor how, that they've had too much to drink, etymology. And the only thing that came up was, this is a quote from the movie Caddyshack.
No.
And it's not even the right quote. The quote goes something like, "Never ask a sailor if he wants another drink because it's nobody's business how many drinks he's had in the first place."
Oh.
And so I was like, so this went from being a saying to being only in the movie Caddyshack to being just something that I wrote.
Well, it's yours
And
now.
the reason you didn't notice is because you had too many edibles that day.
No, that doesn't happen, Rob.
Way too much.
It's not a thing that happens. It is impossible.
Sure, based on what quotes?
I will say, Jarret, if you had just said that confidently and not been like, "Is that an expression?" you would have been fine. If you had just
What,
said,
you
"Never
mean
ask
to Kirsten?"
that sailor how many drunks." Only a sailor should knows how many drinks too much.
Mm-hmm.
If you just said that, she would have been like, "Oh yeah."
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Good point.
That makes sense.
I had kind of a similar. I still don't know if it's a real
right
thing,
back.
but I had a. There's a line that I remember from a movie like The Godfather, and I'm pretty sure it doesn't exist anywhere. I just remember like some Italian guy going, "I'm gonna lose my fucking cookies," and I don't know if that is a real thing from anywhere.
Oh, does that mean to throw up?
Yeah.
And lose your cookies, right?
Yeah,
But
I think I don't know.
Real.
I don't think that
Yeah.
that's a real quote from anywhere. That's what
And
it
you
would
Googled
mean.
it,
If it was,
and it's nowhere.
I couldn't find it.
I love these things. I love these. I love the ungoogleable things, but you're certain that it exists.
I had this was a thing I just bore witness to, if that's the right past tense of that word, and it was so funny. I was with this eccentric director lady who I really didn't care for, But everybody else, because I was like 22, so everybody else around my age was just looking up to her like, oh, she's great. And she was like maybe 32. And she just loved having her little harem of people who just loved her. And she is talking. She's just so full of whatever the fuck she's saying. And then she says a word that I'm like, I don't know what that word is. Like, I just was completely like, I don't think that's anything. I don't remember what the word was, but it seemed like a smarty pants word. But I was like, I know a lot of smarty pants words, and I don't think that's one of them. And so she just keeps on talking. And then the girl, she was just like, oh my God, you're so right. And I just love how you use the word whatever. Like, Jeff is, wow, And then she goes, without missing a beat, like, she was just like, I know. And guess what? I made it up. And then she goes, Shakespeare made up a lot of words.
Oh my God.
I was like, what? This girl says a word that's not real. The other girl congratulates her on using a real word, even though it's not a real word. She just totally is like, and I made it up. Isn't that cool? I'm like, that's not cool. That's weird.
It's stupid.
And then you compared yourself to Shakespeare for doing it. Oh my God.
That's priceless. I like that.
And I got to watch the whole thing back and forth. I was like, what is this craziness? Well, without further ado, why don't we, slate ourselves and say, hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Is This Anything? We have Jarret, Anthony, Rob, and Brett, a.k.a. Jarb, a.k.a. the Riff Boys. And we are back again, pitching our joke ideas for each other for you. Jarret, do you have an order for us?
I do have a Jarb order for you guys. This week, it is Brett, Jarret, Rob, Anthony.
Ooh, number 3.
All right.
Good.
If I was a pimp, I think I'd be a pretty good pimp. No hating, just positive reinforcement. I'd be like, all right, ladies, let's go out there. Let's turn some tricks and let's sell those cookies. I forgot the line. I would be what I imagine a Girl Scout troop leader is like.
That's kind of important.
That's super important for that sell those cookies line. It still worked. It still worked.
I was like, yeah, boy, you do you, man.
I was confused
Sell
about
those
the cookies.
It's actually almost funnier, I think, without that line.
Sell those cookies. What I love about it is like, when you stub your toe, you're like, wow, I never would have on my own kicked the door jamb that hard knowingly. And similarly, I feel like you never would have sold that cookies line as genuinely as you did if you knew that it was a bit. So the fact that you lean into it and let's sell those cookies. I was like, what is he talking about?
All right. I think it's decided I will never mention Girl Scouts if I do that bit ever again.
Oh, that's good.
Sell those cookies. Definitely.
Brett, I think there's a lot of meat on that bone for other things that you hear in like a manager's meeting. Like I worked at a lot of restaurants, and we'd always have like a staff meeting beforehand, and there'd always be those like everybody. Steve sold the most of the prosciutto balls last week. Let's give it up for him. And we've got our new employee here, like lots of support for Cinnamon.
Yeah.
I think that's a really, really funny premise.
Don't forget to pimp positivity, incentivize, monetize, prioritize. Get out there, guy.
I love that. I might keep that as is. I'm just going to turn the first pimp into prostitute.
Right.
I wish that empowering started with an I, because that would be the best next. Prostitutes,
If
empowering.
If I'm going to go as far as to leave out the Girl Scout thing and then say sell those cookies, I'm totally fine with saying empower.
I worked at Olive Garden for like 13 years, so.
Did you really? 13 years?
Yeah, I think so. If not
wow.
13, it's very close to that. So I'm very ingrained in all of the corporate management nonsense that they try to use to get people to buy in. They look at like a little 5-year pin. Hey, and
Yeah.
What's a good prostitute?
Everybody give it up for, because I worked at Uno's for 2 years, at Pizzeria
Okay.
Uno's. And when I became a certified trainer, they gave you a special apron that says certified trainer on it.
There you go.
And so, like, that meeting, they were like, everybody give it up for Jarret, earned his certified trainer apron. You know?
Destiny is earning her 5-year fishnets, everybody. 5-year fishnet. Give it up for her.
The other girls aren't impressed.
And so you, Destiny, are going to be Charity's going to be shadowing you today, you know, so just make sure she knows all the protocol, you
Show her the
know.
ropes.
And I might be able to button the bit with just like after all that positivity. And remember, if the John doesn't pay, I will kill that motherfucker.
Get out there and sell those cookies.
You think it's funnier to threaten them because it's there because you want to like instill fear in them? So it's like, if a John doesn't pay, I will cut your pretty face. All right, get out there.
Yeah.
Get out there,
I'll
little
try
skanks.
both probably. But
Yeah.
Yeah, to undercut the entire joke can be super funny as long as it's
Yeah.
over. But to keep the logic of the joke, you know, I'm a fan of both, obviously.
yeah. They're both funny, but yeah, that's great. Excellent.
Dude, that's great. That is a really, really funny idea.
Anthony, did you ever
Is there-
work a job like that?
No, my mom
I
was
don't think
a waitress.
Anthony's got
so
a
I
social
never,
security card. I'm not sure.
What?
I'm not sure if
Oh.
Anthony has a social security number. I'm not.
I always
off the
avoided.
grid.
I'm pretty off the grid, but I always avoided jobs like that because my mom did. She was a waitress for so long, so I
Oh, okay.
And she played one on TV.
and she played one in a movie with Patton
All
Oswalt.
right.
So you avoided it because you knew how shitty it was, or
Oh
because
yeah, she was miserable. I mean, she didn't like it, so I never wanted to do it. And you know, I've been making a living as an artist for so long, so.
you honestly have been. It's really impressive.
Oh, you know, I had a telemarketing job. I guess that was pretty similar to this.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
They would do
I don't know.
contests.
Was there like a leader for positivity in there? I feel like
Well, they had a
that job just
manager
sucks
that would-
so much.
it was terrible. So the manager would every now and then do like a contest. It'd be like a $5 bonus for whoever gets the most sales in the next hour, and it's like it's $5, and then they're gonna tax it, and you're gonna get it in half.
Oh yeah, that's true, Brett. You know, whoever does whatever becomes the new bottom bitch for the next week.
And then they would
right.
always reference that movie. They'd be like, "Always be closing." Maybe you could have something like that in the prostitutes are always.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Glengarry Glen Ross, that movie.
Always be closing the blinds. So
I had one more thing I wanted to toss out, which is, and remember, girls, we are working these corners. We're not hanging out at them. If you got time to lean, you got time to ream, which is giving a ream job to some dude that you're paid for because you're prostitutes.
great. Okay, I'll do one more. Funerals are the only time that reminding people that they're also going to die makes them feel better. When my grandma died, somebody, an older woman went, just, you'll see her one day in heaven. And it actually did. It made me feel better. But that's like the only time that you can just remind people that they're going to die and it'll make them feel better. Like, if somebody's like, Jordan got the promotion. I didn't get it. You can't be like, well, at least you're going to die one day and then it won't matter that you didn't get the promotion.
And your grandma's there. You'll see her. I'm like, yeah, I guess you're right.
There's also the idea that, you'll be together soon is almost like a threat. Like, it's kind of funny if, like, that's how your grandma took it. Or just be like, don't worry, you and Henry will be together one day soon. And just be like, you coming at me, bitch?
That's pretty funny. Yeah, I like that. But Dimitri Martin has that great joke. There's a
Apologize.
huge difference between I'm sorry and
I apologize.
I apologize when you're at a funeral. So I feel like it's another play
Oh, that's
on.
good.
It's just a little bit too similar in that.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So is it enough? Because maybe I should have started with this anecdotal thing happened to me. Somebody said this to me and it made me feel better. Is it not enough of a commonality of like for me to just say that a funeral is the only time? Like, did that register before I gave the grandma thing?
I think it's cleaner the way you just said it as opposed to the way that you originally said it.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
But
I
didn't
got
mind
it eventually.
Yeah. But at the time, I didn't mind you saying that. I don't think it took away from the joke, but it is cleaner without it.
Yeah, I just had the idea of like, oh, where is he going with this? Like, sure, I believe you. He's been saying things that have been true so far. Maybe
Right.
this is also true.
Yeah.
But I
it
still
was
have to give the
super
example
apparent.
of the grandma thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
But I like
I-
you giving. I like someone saying, and then you go, it's interesting, and then you broaden it. Like that's the only time when you can da 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 da. Yeah, it's
Right.
very
Yeah.
clean.
I was thinking about how funny it would be to say it during weddings, but then I realized they do mention death in weddings.
That's true. So that's
But it's also to make you feel better because it's like, well, when you die, then you won't have to see them anymore. It's only for right now.
Yeah, don't freak out, dude. I know this is an eternal commitment, but kind of not,
Grandma will
It's
be
kind
there.
of funny that
Why
Not
way.
forever.
It's kind of funny because at the funeral they're saying, "Don't worry, you'll be together soon." But at the wedding
Yeah.
they're saying, "When you die, you don't have to be together with that
That's the
person
end.
anymore."
Your grandmother will be there, but you don't have to worry about your wife.
That would be funny if when your spouse dies, they come to heaven. You're like, whoa, 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 whoa. You heard the beast. He'll death to us.
You're in a hot tub with a couple of angels.
Yeah, and it's the grandmother doing that. Oh, whoa! Oh, hey, hold on.
Hey.
He specifically told me. I can't. And then the wife is like, "Well, I was at your funeral." It's so rude.
Yeah, that's a great bit, Brett.
Okay. Let's see. How much time do I have? I have time for one more quick one. 11:06.
I say do it. I'll probably be
all right,
real
do it.
short
do a
too.
real quick one.
I'll do a short one this time.
I can't get into bank heist movies. It's Robin, Jerry, you may have heard me try this bit before. I can't get into bank heist movies because it's like it takes them like 7 years to plan, and they have to have all these covers, and then they have to rent an ambulance, and they have to get a fireman's outfit, and then they split it 13 ways. I'm like, how much did you make at the end of that? And like $25. It's like you could just get a job. You
Yeah,
7 years to plan this, you would make more money if you just worked a regular job.
You'd have benefits.
That's great. I love that. I think tweaking each detail as like its own separate knob is going to really make the juice of this joke like work. Where like how many years exactly? What's the funniest amount of time? What's the prepping exactly? You got to get a fence. You got to get a driver. You got to get a whatever.
Right.
Really getting into the nitty gritty details of what that entails. I think would make me personally like really dive into this joke and laugh. And then at the end, I know you have to say, you don't have to, but I know you're probably going to say a dollar amount. So the dollar amount is funny, but I don't know if there's another way to represent money. Like, what did you make? Rent.
Oh yeah.
If you said a word that represents, what you did, just paid off my student loans.
I like that one.
Yep, I'm even, baby.
Well, we say like
Fry.
one of the guys in our crew is named Kit Kat because after the job, he always buys himself a Kit Kat with the money that he made. That's how much money he made.
That's all he can.
I would also say that at the beginning of the joke, it might be smart to sort of like tip your hand as to where it's going and say that like I can't get into heist movies because it just seems like a very inefficient way to make money. And then you talk about like how much work goes into it and how little it is when you split it up. Another thing that I thought, I actually tweeted this out a little while ago, how I think it's so funny that part of the heist plan is always like getting a job at the casino or getting someone on the inside, as though getting a job is like the easiest thing in the entire world to do, where it's like, hey, how's it going? Getting hired at Caesar's Palace for a thing. It's just like, I didn't have enough references.
Yeah, it was
I didn't have
supposed to be a 5-year heist, but it's 7 years because we couldn't get Bernice hired as a.
She
as
needed
a
to do a training program
janitor.
first.
Well, you're also making me think of like it'd be really funny if one of the guys guys is just like, I really like this job. I don't think I want to. I love my boss, and I don't really want to betray him. Sorry, guys, I'm out.
I'm a great card dealer. And
And also, now I know what you guys are gonna do, so I'll be on the lookout for it. All right, you guys ready to keep this train rolling?
Mm-hmm.
All right,
Let's do it.
I am up. I am recording. Okay. All right, this one's a little dark, so bear with me. I am fascinated by the idea of being bisexual, where your attraction just depends on the person, not their gender. And I was wondering if that sort of thing exists in other places on the sexual spectrum. For example, like with pedophiles. Like, are there pedophiles that are like, I'm mainly into kids, but if the right adult came along, I'm not going to close my heart off to someone just because they weren't born in the right year or whatever. I always feel like, so that's the end of the bit. I always feel like the word pedophile is it's such a nuclear bomb that you have to like soften everything around the word so that people don't immediately just like jump to whatever they think the joke is going to be. What do you guys think?
Yeah, you're right about how rough of a word that is. That was great. Just knowing the kinds of jokes that you tell, I think you're surfing that line great. That's a nice way to do it. And as someone who likes to kind of use my goodwill with the audience in order to say the things that I feel like I want to and can get away with, that was masterful. That's probably the way I'd go about it, because I guess
thanks, man.
it seems sort of Teflon. I don't like. What's the problem with the joke?
And there's never a moment where it feels like you're on the pedophile side, sympathizing. I mean, it always comes off like you're making fun of pedophiles right away, which I think is important.
Do you think that someone's going to say you're comparing bisexuality to pedophilia? Yeah, yes, 100%. People will say that to you and say that to you. But that's
why we want you to tell the joke, because we want to destroy you, and we want that spot to be open for us.
For anyone who wants to hear that, they'll hear it, and I can't avoid that. I don't know what else to say. But I think jokes are really good. Yeah.
I would say I don't know that bisexual is actually the best term, and I'm not sure about this. There might be a better term for you're attracted to just the individual.
Pansexual.
Pansexual.
Pansexuality might be better.
I think bisexual just means you're attracted to men and women, but that may negate some other, maybe trans. I don't know exactly how that works.
Well, I tell you why I want to do bi is because I think it's funnier if it's not a spectrum, if it's one or the other, like children or adults.
I see.
And so maybe I should, but I also, as I want to be the wokest comedian of all time, I don't want to say, that you're attracted to both genders, because then
that's true.
That's sort of saying that there are only two genders, and I know that that's not something that everybody agrees with now. And so I wonder how you then parse that with the idea of bisexuality, where the bi literally means like two, right?
Yeah.
So
I don't think the joke.
Yeah, in order to get into pedophilia, you do have to have it to be a specific sexual preference.
Yeah.
Like it has to be what you are attracted to.
I don't think that the
Maybe
joke
if
is
I
less funny if it's pansexual, though.
You say you don't think it's less funny?
I don't think so.
Okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll give it a try.
I think that your description of bisexuality was probably flawed in the way,
because I said just depends on the person. Yeah,
Right.
that's
true.
that's the definition of pansexuality, not the definition of bisexuality.
Right.
Yeah.
The other thing, the other note I would say is when you're going, well, I'm not going to be attracted to somebody just because they're pubescent. You're like searching for that word.
prepubescent.
Yeah. No. Well, no,
right.
you're saying just because they're pubescent, meaning they're adults.
Yeah. That's funnier than just because they weren't born in the right year or whatever. Yeah.
But I like
just
that.
because they're born in the right year. I love that line a lot.
Oh, really?
I do love that line. Yeah,
It's because it's used in a more normal way. Like people would say that, you know, or they could be justified in saying that.
Yeah.
But the
Age
fact that
ain't
you're so
nothing but a number.
unjustified, I made a joke. I remember when Dane Cook had his younger girlfriend, and he looked pretty bad. He looked like the way Harvey Weinstein looked at one point. The picture was just so gross. And he was with that 19-year-old girlfriend or whatever. It was just so funny that, like, it was just like, I posted something about people being like, you know, gay pride, and this like, love is love is love is, oh my God, did you see Dane Cook with that girl? Like, oh, love isn't anymore? Oh, love is love. Is love not love?
Okay. Anything else for that one?
I wish I piled on. All we did was kind of,
No, it's fine.
you know,
I mean, it would,
figure out ways to thread the needle and how are you going to get away with it, that kind of thing.
I think
I'm here for that and tags
Yeah.
as well. You know,
if you go into like all of the criticisms of somebody who would date a younger person, but then flip it on an older person, like, so what if we have stuff in common? And you know, she knows what a job is, and like, I think you can play with that a little
so
bit.
what if we're from the same generation and and we're at the same place in our lives?
So what if we have stuff to talk about?
That's funny.
You know, we have the same CDs. We have the same, you know,
They're fully formed adults.
yeah. We're at the same place in our careers.
She
We
remembers CDs.
So what if she can rent a car?
All right, let's move on. Let's see here. This is very nascent. So I'm a progressive, and I got to say that one of the stereotypes about progressives that I don't like is that we're the elite, like we're this Harvard-educated political philosophers of the country. But I fall for that stereotype too, which is why I love this justification is terrible.
Justification alarm.
Let's see here. I guess the thing that I don't like about that idea is part of the reason why I don't like that idea is because I love hearing when a working class accent, someone with a working class accent says very progressive things. So I guess that's the justification I'm going for. The joke then being like, hey, Joey, you think Elizabeth Warren's got a shot in the primary? I don't know. I'm thinking about voting Pete Buttigieg. It's time we had a generational shift in politics. Plus, he's gay. Representation is important. You know, stuff like that. This is born out of a true thing that I do have. Like, I love hearing working class, blue collar accents saying things that are really progressive.
Yeah.
And so I was just that justification is so fucking.
I think you just what you just said is a lot better of a justification. I love that, and that could even lead into your love of Boston accents.
I was thinking
Just to say, you know, people always talk about coastal elites, and I'm in New York where there's a lot of working class people, so you get to hear working class people with progressive opinions. It's enough of a justification.
Agreed.
Right, I love it.
Agreed. Okay. Anything else for that, guys? I'm at about 9 minutes, so I'm totally fine ending it there if there's no other ideas for that one.
I don't know. I was.
I
gonna
wish
say
that,
the same
honestly,
thing.
I kind of wish that Pete Buttigieg's agenda was slightly more progressive than you seeming to point it out to be. But, you know, we're gonna get there.
Well, that'd be a funny angle for the working class guy to take.
Oh yeah.
I like Buttigieg. She's like, but he's not for the Green New Deal.
Although representation is important.
Although representation is important, I'm glad he's homosexual.
I know he's a little more I know he's more centrist than we'd like, but it's time for a generational shift in politics. Plus, he's gay.
That's good.
But yeah, he doesn't. Oh, you're gonna vote for the corporatist?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I was going to suggest that it was an argument between two people like that, but it's way funnier that he's just doing it himself.
Hey, you gonna vote for Buttigieg? Why don't you just vote for a Chase Bank kiosk? Yeah, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of meat on that bone. I think you could do that a guy for a while.
Yeah.
I like it going in the nuanced direction. It doesn't have to. I mean, I don't know how the audience are going to really care about that.
I think, I think, they may not care about it, but I think they'll appreciate it. It's just, it's such good. The voice, like, we're not even contrasting ideas that you're saying. It's like the voice is contrasting with whatever you're saying. That's such a great juxtaposition.
Yeah, and if you could teach the audience about splitting hairs over centrist versus lefties of the Democratic Party, that'd be great too.
Yeah, who's the progressive wing and who are the corporatist centrists? People are going to learn something from this joke.
That's super funny.
You got the support of Chuck Schumer. Oh, okay. so New York's version of a Republican. Chuck Schumer. All right.
I'm wearing a hard hat. He's got the orange vest.
You can also curse because it would be great if he's like, "Get the fuck out of here." If you, I just want to hear her say that.
How you would get to it, but if you want to do an analogous of, because there are Trump supporters in New York, to have somebody with a kind of a posh accent who is like, what about her emails? Hey, man. And then he could be like, get the fuck out of here.
And now it's Rob's turn.
All right. I'll start my clock. Okay, so thank you guys. A couple of jokes I wanted to get through today. Maybe I should start off with what I was excited about as far as my, this is, again, pertaining to this one-man show that I've been working on. If you guys have been watching before, I came to the group with a restraining order bit idea. It's a true story regarding a time that I had a restraining order against my own mother. And what the idea originally was, and we talked about this before, which was, let's go to the top of this, that I was thinking that restraining orders I wanted to kind of get into the whole idea of them, the concept of them. If prison is the adult version of a timeout, then restraining orders are the adult version of, hey, leave your sister alone. It's restraining orders of protection or documents signed by a judge that legally state, knock it off. It's the cop's way of saying, don't make me come up there. It's all very scary and it's all very threatening, but it's really hard to say if it means anything. I don't know what it actually means. And that's how I felt when I actually had this thing against my mom. This piece of paper said she couldn't come back home, but it's not like she's in jail. She's just somewhere. And this was the new thought that I had, which was that a restraining order, she's not in jail. A restraining order is actually anti-jail. I mean, when you're in jail, you can't go anywhere but here. A restraining order, though, you can go anywhere but here. And you are a free man. The world is your oyster. But invariably, the person who has the order against them is like, I'm going to go there. You're like, no. You can't go there. You're allowed to go anywhere in the world. It's yours. I'm going to do it. Stop. You can travel. You could go to China. Take a year off. Do whatever you want. I'm going to go to Lake Ronkonkoma, New York. Why? Stop doing this. And that was the one angle that I was excited about. Of you can go anywhere, but the person always just no. I want to go there. I want to go to the one place I can't go.
Yeah, that's great. I think just say violating a restraining order is like saying
violating a restraining order.
Yeah, like it's a good way to get into that. Just to get into those examples, because that's what's happening.
I would love it if where you said Lake Ronkonkoma, if you had an address. If you had an exact address, I think that would be funny.
Yeah, I was wondering if throwing the address in there would be funny too. Yeah. Lake Ronkonkoma is my real hometown, but it just works. Just all the K's and it sounds like any town USA. It has that. It's like, well, you can go anywhere in the world. Where do you want to go? I'm going to go to Lake Ronkonkoma. I'm going to 27 Gale Drive.
Was that the real address?
No, it's close, but I don't want to give people money.
I love the idea that of you having the restraining order, because it's like, parents are usually like, go to your room, and then you're like, okay, but you can't come to my room.
That's really funny.
Rob, I had a bunch of thoughts about this.
Yeah, please.
So first is, it's such a human thing to only want the thing that you can't have.
Right.
And so these are all just things I think could be added to this because it's such a rich idea or such a rich premise. Mm-hmm. Number one being like, If you had a table full of 1,000 different kinds of food, every kind of delicacy and indulgence, and you said you can eat whatever you want on this table except for the donuts there for a charity later, everybody is going to just want the donuts. You know?
Yeah.
That's number one.
So
Number
true.
two, I like
If you
the
eat
idea.
the donuts, you have to go to court.
Yeah, exactly. Number two, I like the idea of almost like a travel agent when you get a restraining order, being like, you can go anywhere in the entire world. So just let me know where you want to go. And then the person being like, I want to go to 857 Roanoke Lane. And then the person like typing for a little bit and being like, okay, so that is the only place that you cannot go. You can go to 859. That's the house right next door. And it's like, I just
Gonna do it for me. I'm gonna.
I want to go to. Okay.
What I would really like to do is to be honest and kind of jump into the shoes of my mother at the time, because it is gnarly. And there was an earlier iteration of this story where I used to say, as a kid, I understood what I was doing, but as an adult, I literally cannot fathom the possibility that a child of mine less would keep me from sleeping in my own house. Like, that seems absurd to me. I would probably flip out and be like, what? I don't care what I did. Like, you're telling me I can't go home? I can't go to my fucking home? It's weird. It's super weird. But that was I think that was a step too far for an audience to kind of wrap their minds around for so many reasons, you know? And I probably wasn't telling it well to you. But that concept is so real. And I want to jump into it, and I think this is a funny way to do it. It's slightly more removed, slightly more cerebral, and as you said, Jarret, because of the fact that it's a human experience to be like, if I tell you to not do one thing, it's just like, how are you not going to want to do that one thing?
It might be a funny justification to say, like, I honestly think that a restraining order is one of the worst things that you can do to a person, worse than jail even, because when you tell somebody they can't go someplace, that's the only place they want to go. And the human nature side of it thing, you know, blah, blah, blah.
That's an interesting way to phrase
Yeah.
that.
And the thing that you just said about a child being the one that tells you can't get to your home, like, it might be funny to do an act out about, like, how dumb a child can be.
Yeah.
And be like, and so that is the one. Let me tell you something. I showed my kid a gummy worm, said it was a real worm, ate it, and my kid puked on the carpet. And now that kid said I can't come home.
Oh, I was thinking it was from the perspective of the kid. The kid is saying dumb stuff and then brings up that what he did to the mother.
Oh yeah, so maybe the kid is like, my friend. What's like an urban myth? Like, my friend didn't realize that a spider had laid eggs in his toothpaste, and he brushed his teeth with it, and then spiders came out of his mouth. And also, my mom is terrible, and she can't come home. Something like that. I don't know. That's pretty dark, but
no, I love it. I added a joke recently to the first act of my set that I believe touches on the idea that you're trying to get across, because it had to do with the Child Protective Services lady who came to me after 6 months. You can re-up the restraining order for another 6 months, and I took I took the opportunity to do it. But it was bizarre because, again, I'm 16 years old, and when I think about 16-year-olds in general, they really shouldn't be making decisions like this, you know, for themselves or for anybody. So the line that I added that wound up being really fun was, it was like basically, like, you ever get into a fight with your parents and you're like, I wish you weren't my mom, and you slam the door. Well, this lady's like, I can arrange that. She was like the devil coming and be like, I can make that happen. And you're like, oh, okay. I don't know if my words should not be listened to right now.
Yeah, if you're a kid and your mom is like, you're not allowed to watch TV after 9, and then you're like, but I could just get rid of mom.
Yeah. So this stuff, I think I tap into kind of well with that, where I have this power that I shouldn't have had, and basically my conclusion is that I did use and maybe arguably abuse it. So that was my in the show. That's sort of the angle that I take, where I go, upon reflection, I was just kind of pissed. I was angry. I wasn't really like thinking what was best for her. Maybe those two things coincided. Maybe they didn't. But that certainly wasn't the reasoning. So that's something that I address. Now this is after that, and now I'm trying to move the story forward about, okay, restraining order. And the reality is that she eventually comes back. And she comes back before the whole thing's over. She comes back at like 10 months. And I think I may have mentioned this last time. Here's my second thing that I was getting excited about. Last time I mentioned how day one feels a lot differently than the last day. And like it becomes more and more absurd the closer you get to the thing finishing, where it's like, we're one day away. What difference is it going to make if I come home today or if I come home tomorrow? And if your brain can get there, to that logical place, you can probably justify a week or a month. Like, what difference does it make? I've been gone for 10 months. Let me just come home now. So that's the preamble to this. I wouldn't say any of that, I don't think. I'm going to replace it with this instead. Let's see. Okay, so it was a full year, but it felt very different for me because the first half of the restraining order, those first 6 months, that belongs to the restrainer. The restrainer is riding high. They're like, I got rid of you. How about that? Why don't you spend some time thinking about what you did? But the second half, that belongs to the restrainee. They're like, I'm coming back. How about that? Why don't you spend a couple of months thinking about what you did? And that feeling really did start to happen. I was like, oh no, oh shit, oh the things I did. She's coming back, and there's no way she's gonna be happy about that year that she spent. And so that's the second idea I had. And the reality is, this is actually true. Public opinion kind of started to turn on me because like the family was finding out, and they knew that I went for the extra 6 months. And now my mom was originally, she was in a rehab for 30 days and then halfway house for 6 months. So after 7 months, she had nowhere to go. She lived with her parents. She lived with like a friend. So at some point, everyone's just like, why can't Linda just go back home? I don't understand. And so that's the position that we were in. So after about 10 months, she just snuck back into the house and she's like, just let me stay. And I was like, all right, that's fine.
All those people who didn't want to live with her, I feel like there should be some part of them that's like, oh, maybe he doesn't want to live with them because we don't want to live with her. Yeah, like, maybe we can kind of understand.
All these people are like, Rob, just take your mom back. And you're like, can you just imagine, like, you think about like when she was living with you. Imagine if she also had like all this power over you because you were her child. Like, do you see how that would be worse? It's just like, I guess.
It's funny that as they realize they're trying to convince you, like, it's not so bad, but really it's because they're like, I can't take it another day. I can't.
Or even if they give you like, Rob, can you just take her back? She drinks all the time. She yells. Like, why won't you take her back? It's like, because of everything you just said.
I'm a little worried for my safety.
That's so good.
I don't know if this will add to it or not, sure. Rob, but I was thinking about when you said like the second half of the restraining order is theirs, maybe using the analogy of like, when you're a kid and like you break something and there's no way for you to replace it before your parents get home and you just know that you're getting in trouble, you just know that it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Like that's what that 6 months was like for me. I just knew I was going to get in trouble for this during that time. I don't know if there's anything funny in that analogy, but
the analogy I had thrown around my head was that it felt like August for summer vacation. Like, I was like, nah, this was fun back in June, but it's coming. I could start to get that back to school feeling in my gut.
When you did the act out of the person, like, I could arrange that or whatever, it sort of reminded me of maybe one of those types of like Twilight Zone kind of stories where they do like the monkey paw wish,
right? Yeah,
because then you were talking about how people started to turn on you, and then like after the 6 months you started realizing she's going to come back, and so you're actually in a worse position than you were before.
Oh, that's
and
good.
So it sort of reminded me of one of those kind of, especially once you were like, I can make that happen.
Maybe as the time creeps on, you're like, wonder where that social security or that social service lady is. Get her back.
Here to make another wish.
Some code word or something.
Well, it's also really similar to that one Twilight Zone episode where the kid has the magical powers, and so all the adults are like, are like, "Oh, Timmy, you're a fine boy. You're a fine boy, Timmy," because they don't want him to kill them or turn him into a monster
yeah.
or something.
Oh yeah.
Do you think
Oh,
it'd be funny to do all of the other adults that you know are then really nice to you because you have the phone number for the social services lady?
Power.
Yeah.
South
But
Park did a
also,
good job of that.
I realized that since you took the re-up, that was like you made a second wish.
That's true.
So at that point, you were out of wishes. And
That's
then
funny.
you had to deal with the reality, which is now that it has shifted where now your mom's like, yeah, but I'll be back. And then your family's like, you're terrible.
Yeah.
And so that is kind of, that's fun that it happened multiple times. And it was like you kept making the same bad wish.
I like that. Yeah, there's something very, overall overarching about that. That's cool, metaphor-wise. If as far as those two main concepts, though they generally come across, they work for you. We started off with the knock it off thing we already talked about. The second one being the
Did you tighten that up?
a little. I you know what? I didn't listen to the whole notes process, but there was a line I believe you said, Brett, and I couldn't remember what the fuck the line was, and I didn't include it when I just retold it now. So I'm gonna look back at it. But I remember liking it.
It seemed tighter to me, but I don't recall.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. I'm sure the
great.
first time I was trying to explain this thing. So that's great. I'm glad that that's better. And there's a line, I definitely at least one line I want to add in. And then the second idea being that restraining order is anti-jail, where you can go anywhere, but you can't go there. And then the third idea is, half and half. So those are the three main points I think I want to get across. Tags and other little things I could throw in there, but that's it, right? I mean, you follow that, and then I can move on from that.
Yeah. I did have one thought that I didn't get to, and I don't know if this would help at all, but as an insecure person, if I ever had a restraining order against me, I would be like, well, I mean, who has the restraining order against who? I can't go there, and I don't want there to go to me. So, whatever.
We just can't see each other.
Yeah.
That's mutual.
It was a mutual.
There's a mutual restraining order,
It
really.
was an amicable restraining order.
That's really funny.
Is the idea behind that the person who lives there or the actual house itself can't come visit you? Because I think that's a funnier idea.
Yeah.
Like that house can't come to me either.
But yeah, that's just me. Like, I wouldn't violate a restraining order because I'd be so embarrassed by it.
You go shopping, the house is there. Oh, God.
Oh, this is awkward.
This is so awkward.
And you're wearing the same shirt.
One of us has to change our ways. Okay.
And you say to the house, listen, you have to go and change because I can't go home and change because I can't go home right now. And you know that because you're my home.
But it wasn't just for home, right? I mean, she couldn't go anywhere that you were.
Yeah, I forget how they work. I think it's like you can't go to that person's home, place of work, school. I think there's like places that are also, it's written by the judge specifically, like whatever the parameters are. You can't go within 200 feet of some place or some person, something like that.
That would be funny too if like you're giving the addresses of, you're like, I want to go to, and then they're like, you can't go there. Okay, well, how about to public high school number? Like, no, not there.
No, you can't do that.
Summer camp? Nope.
Want to go to his girlfriend's house. You can't.
Well, I have to check on that. That might be allowed. Might be a loophole.
That's great.
What if the travel agent gets frustrated at one point and you're like, okay, well, the next place I want to go to is Anderson Middle School. And they're like, why? Why do you want to go to Anderson Middle School? Oh, they got a good basketball court.
History. There's a lot of history there.
I was thinking about becoming a substitute, and I wanted to ask them about it. They had an application or whatever.
Do you mind if I get at one more small idea? I wasn't sure if this was my idea or not.
As a matter of fact, I do.
All right, I don't have to. I couldn't even remember if this was my idea. I swear to God, I was like, I feel like this was done. All right.
So I have cluster headaches.
I was told male seahorses are the ones that carry the kid.
Yeah.
Is that true, or is that just the
Yeah, I think
scientists
so.
trying not to get fired? As you can see, I have collected all the male seahorses. That one just gave birth. Yes, they do that.
Funny you should mention that. That brings me to my next point.
Male seahorses give birth.
I thought you said this was the male seahorse. It is the male seahorse.
it
Well,
is.
it just gave birth. Well, that's what they do.
What they do. Very rare. It's very
Do you
rare.
not know that the male seahorses give birth?
It's not in your presentation. Oh, I missed a page. Hold on. Is that written in crayon?
That is extremely funny, Rob, and weird coincidence. I think I just said something like that to Kurt, not as a joke, but just like as a thought. I just be like, so what is the thing that makes them male then?
yeah.
Because that's usually what we associate with the difference between a male and a female is whichever one gives birth.
Testosterone, right?
Meanwhile, I thought Jarret was woke. Get with it.
Sorry, I was just reading a text that Brett sent me. That wasn't, those weren't my thoughts. I was just reading something that Brett wrote.
I wrote about that fact in my book. I have the chapter where I do fake like 1940s detective story.
Okay.
And I mentioned that as one of the.
Oh, that's
I mean,
great.
it's not like your thing, but it was a fact that I also found humorous enough to use in some capacity.
The reality is that they are still the sperm creators, but the female puts the egg inside of the male, and then the egg gets fertilized inside the sperm creators. Where
Pegging kind of thing.
Yes, pegging. They're pegging with eggs. It's pegging.
Imagine if you could get pregnant during pegging.
Wait, so the semen that is in the male seahorse never leaves his body?
Right. And
So-
It never comes.
So maybe it's just that in the seahorse world, sperm is bigger than eggs. So it's the female are still ejaculating
yeah.
semen, but in their semen is just 3 big eggs that go into the male seahorse.
I'm gonna have an
And
omelet
his-
after this.
What'd you say?
He's getting
I'll
hungry
just
for an
talk
omelet.
about eggs.
You guys see what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
like
No,
how
not
then
really.
why is that the sperm if it's the thing that stays inside when the eggs is usually what stays inside? Why don't you just call that the eggs?
I don't know. I think that because the eggs are not like moving and have their own whatever, but the sperm does. I'm not really quite
It
sure.
might be a multiplicity thing. You know, one or 2 eggs, and then millions of sperm.
Yeah. But yeah.
But I definitely do not think that we should speculate on marine biology. I don't think we're going to figure it out.
You don't think that we could just think tank this without any field work whatsoever?
Not quite.
All right. Thank you. Seriously, guys, thank you. This is great. This is a nice little chunk of my show that I'm trying to bridge. And I keep on having such a struggle with, hey, how do I get from real life stories to silly bits that don't have to do with anything and then back again, but still kind of pushes the plot forward, has some meaning, isn't horribly depressive or too niche or whatever. So great. This is all great.
Sweet.
Anthony, what do you got for us?
Anthony.
today?
All right. I have, I'm going to keep working on a joke that I talked about already. It's the joke about my sister's phone number and then going into the whole yoga routine. Get it? Get yoga routine? Come on.
I missed it. What was
I
it?
said
What
yoga.
happened?
I don't think any of us do yoga enough to know that you don't do routines in yoga.
Is that what the joke was?
Yeah,
I
that was
just
good.
got it the moment before I said that.
I mean, maybe
Like it took me that long.
Can you repeat what you just said?
I just said yoga routine, and I thought it was funny because you could say that as a bit about yoga or just doing yoga
Because you don't call it a routine. You don't call it a routine. It's like saying, "Hey, I liked your skit" when you see somebody stand up.
Yeah. I don't know if they call it a routine in the yoga world, but it still worked, and I thought it was funny.
I think it would be funnier if more of us were
laughed
first in yoga.
Yeah.
I mean, I only did it enough times to hurt myself, and then get better.
Get back.
It was a real
Or
thing. It was a real.
If yoga instructors refer to different segments as chunks, they're like,
I got a new bit. I do this. But
We're gonna do the
thinking about
downward
adding that
dog
to
chunk
this.
now, and
"Do you guys like my yoga chunk?" It has a double meaning.
oh, that's great. So I'm working on this as I mean, I've done it as a joke, but what I'm working on now is I have some music that goes with it, and it's a spoken word thing that, I feel like with the music, I have a little bit of leeway if some of the lines don't work, but I figure, why not test it without music and see how strong these lines are. So it's not really finished, but tell me,
Is this
gives you
anything?
any ideas? Huh? Is this anything? Yeah. My sister gave me her new phone number, but I'm pretty lazy, so I just keep using the old number instead. The woman who has that number now is my new sister, and we talk every day. Luckily, they're both named Stephanie, so the transition was pretty seamless. I didn't even have to change the contact information in my phone. One day we were talking, and she said she started doing yoga, and she feels better than ever. She said I should try it too. And I never used to take advice from my old sister, but this time I thought, new sister, new me. But when I tried yoga, I pulled a muscle in my back. It was the worst pain I've ever felt. And this is what I have so far. This is what I have next, but I don't think this is necessarily it. It was the worst pain I ever felt. It was so bad, I passed out. Hours went by, maybe even days. When I finally came to, I called my doctor. I said, "Can you recommend something for the pain?" And my doctor said, "Have you tried doing yoga?" I was so desperate for relief, so I tried it again. And this time, the pain went away instantly. It was incredible. So I called my new sister. I said, "Guess what? I did yoga." She said, "That's great. How do you feel?" And I thought about it, and I said, "I feel about the same as before."
All right, cool. So I like, we've heard this from maybe last week or 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
New sister, new me line, super funny
Great.
to me. I like that a lot. There was something that struck me about you passing out. I don't remember that.
No, that
I remember
wasn't
hearing
in
that.
there.
Yeah, okay.
Because
So that's
last
the-
time we were saying maybe you could shorten it, and so what you did is you added stuff.
Well,
Which is, I like that.
I did
technique.
shorten. I did get to the point faster in some other parts,
You definitely did.
but I know there needs to be something in that section where I hurt myself, because I think what happened when I used to do it as a bit was that I just said I hurt myself and I called my doctor, and my doctor recommended yoga or whatever, right? So I think that by the time it gets to the end where I say I feel about the same as before, I think I really need to talk about what kind of pain I need to draw more attention to how painful it was.
Yeah.
So that people can realize the journey. It's like I was fine. I did yoga. I was in pain. It was really fucked up. And then I did it again. I felt better. And then how do you feel? About the same as before.
I have two suggestions to maybe bring out the pain more, and I wanted to make a point to Jarret and Brett in case you didn't pick up on this, and to the audience as well, that Anthony originally had a more concise joke that he would just say to an audience over music. Now Anthony has actually constructed an entire by itself song that is this story that is his new sister. So the intention of the bit is for it to last 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, whatever it is, for it to
about 2 minutes.
span the length of a song. So any storytelling elements in there are designed to
I see.
get you. There's like a little bridge, and then there's like this little chorus kind of thing, and then it kind of. So I heard it like a week ago, and it has its own flow to it. So if you're looking for suggestions to make it more traditionally joke stylistic, it might not fly as much. So that's where the extra words are coming in.
That makes sense.
But for you, Anthony, what made me laugh maybe because the idea that you're trying to get the page across, I like that you're passing out now. So I had two ideas. One is that if you pass out while on the mat, you're like, I hurt myself so bad I passed out. I was doing downward facing face.
I do like that. I like that a lot.
And then,
My yoga instructor said I was one of the best she's ever seen. I was there for days.
if you could also say, my second idea was that your new sister says you'll love it, the time will fly by, and then when you say I passed out, it could have been for minutes, it could have been for days. You know, it turns out the time really didn't fly by. I didn't even notice. I was out for hours or something along those lines. I don't know. These are just jokes, ways to continue adding to the silliness of it, but you're getting the point across that you passed out, you were in pain, it took a long time. Those are two suggestions I had.
Adding to the downward facing face. I was just thinking of other yoga positions that everybody knows that you could incorporate there. The instructor could say something like, "That is the best screaming warrior I have ever seen," or crying warrior, or doubled over in pain warrior, something like that.
Yeah. I like the idea of playing with some funny names.
Your Warrior 3.
What?
Your Warrior 3.
You don't even have to go off of popular tropes, right? You can make up any.
Make up a new.
Yeah, anything that
catatonic
has
lotus.
Yeah, that's true. I was thinking anything that has downward would work, or anything that has pose in it. They'll just get it.
Yeah. I was in faceplant pose.
What's something that kills kids?
Knives.
Arsenic.
Like a disorder.
Leukemia.
Oh, Lou Gehrig's disease.
Oh yeah, like a
SIDS?
that's a great leukemia
SIDS,
child's
good one.
post.
Jesus.
Malnourished child's pose.
SIDS.
Murdered
That's
child's
what I was
The
looking
pose.
for.
child's
SIDS.
pose looks like you have SIDS.
So-
It has SIDS.
oh man, that's dark.
That's true.
Child's funeral pose.
What I did have in one of the versions that I sent Rob that I didn't say here or last time was, Rob didn't like it, but I'm going to mention it anyway.
Oops.
Because I just knew it had to be something. So when I called the doctor in the version he heard, the doctor asks how I hurt myself, and I say something like, "That's not. I can't give you that information right now, or that's not important, or something. But what I can tell you is that it was something very dangerous and heroic. Like I'm trying to, like I'm."
You would have to
embarrassed
mention that
about
you're.
that.
Yeah, you'd have to mention
Yeah.
that you're embarrassed about yoga at some point. I feel like.
But I don't know. I guess all I really was thinking when I sent that version to him was that I wish there was something funny I could say to the doctor, but I don't know if it's funny. Like, it's not really funny if I'm embarrassed about, because yoga is actually pretty intense, and I did hurt myself, so it's not really embarrassing. But I don't know, just something funny that I could say to the doctor. But I don't know. Because it's pretty straightforward, like that just feels like a part that could benefit from some punching up.
What about my suggestion? Did you not care for what I said? I said, you said that you called the doctor and you say, I really hurt myself badly. And the doctor said, have you tried yoga? And I couldn't tell if that was a suggestion or an accusation.
I did like it, but I guess I couldn't figure out the wording, which I guess what you
Try what I just said.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know if you worded it exactly like that in the text.
I will find this fucking text. I'm gonna look it up right now.
I remember trying to think about it, and I was like,
It
I don't know
says
how to put it.
this was in ground Caddyshack. Actually, worded perfectly. I was
I
like
did yoga, and it hurt so bad I lost my fucking cookies.
Oh, this was the text. Do you remember I sent you a text and I kept on accidentally sending you beta versions of it and it was kept on being wrong.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, that's not what I meant to do. And I sent it to you again. I was like, no, that's not what I meant.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
finally I landed on this, which was, it was so bad I had to call my doctor. I said, I hurt my back. My doctor examined me and said, have you tried yoga? I thought, was that a suggestion or an accusation? That was my.
Oh,
that was
so
the
it was
wording I had
clear.
there.
Maybe I was just confused because of the 6 texts before.
It's a little longer.
Yeah, I think Anthony's confusion was understandable. You gave enough backstory to incriminate yourself there.
I don't care if I'm right or wrong. I just wanted to get down to the
No,
bottom.
that is a good way to put it. I don't know why. I was probably also stoned when I was.
Yeah,
thinking
Anthony was
about
like, is he sending this over and over again? Or I'm just reading it over and over again?
it. There must have been a reason, but I do like that, so I will consider putting that.
One more note for you passing out. The instructor said my chakras were asleep.
Oh, that's funny. I wasn't even thinking of it being at a place because I've only done it at home.
Oh.
But it would be maybe funnier if I incorporated, what the experience of hurting yourself that badly in front of a whole room of people would be like, passing out. It's like embarrassing or whatever. But yeah, then there's an instructor that could, I don't know if I have time. Well, I mean, I could always rework the music, but the way that it's structured now, it moves pretty quickly without any particular punchlines in that whole section.
I'm excited
this
to
is
hear it
also-
with the music.
Yeah, maybe I'll do it on one of these.
I was thinking of when you said chakra. I was thinking of a chakra jock, like a disc jockey who.
That's what they have in
Ouch, that
India.
was
Chakra
my
chakras.
sciatica. Sciatica in the morning.
His buttons are just like waterfall sounds and. This is meditation in the morning with your chakra jack.
I saw her. I was like, I want to give her a child's pose. That's not very good.
No, downward dog would be less offensive, probably.
There's Jarret. There was an earlier thing I wanted to mention. This is just for the people out there who do go up to comics and take issue with jokes that we tell. When you listen to Jarrett's trying sort of fawning over the details of how to tell a particular joke, even if it has to do with pedophilia. I mean, it's like all the thought and care that goes into how to do it in such a way so that it works, it makes sense, it's internally consistent, it aligns with your values. I still find it kind of annoying and bizarre that people think their passing comments just should mean as much as the time spent going over it. But I didn't say it at the time. But it was just something that I was thinking about.
Anthony, you can edit that into to my section.
Oh,
Yeah.
put it in. No, I'm gonna leave it where it is. But but isn't it? Couldn't you make an argument that all of the collective passing comments like that
Okay
sort of
point.
come into play when we're considering?
Yeah, I guess that's true.
The nuances.
There's also
Yeah,
the
I
idea that our performance is intended to seem like we are just coming up with this
Yes,
in the
that's a good point,
moment.
too.
You
Yeah.
know?
I always think it's weird when people think, because people have said that to me, but it's like, what, you think I made up the chords and I made up all of those one-liners? What is wrong with you?
Oh yeah, I've had people ask if I've kicked people out of shows for talking, and they asked if I planned that. I was like,
the
it was
weirdest-
so awkward and unfunny. I called an intermission in the middle of the show so I could physically remove these people from the show. There were no laughs. They were like, that was great.
That's why I was
Come
curious.
tomorrow.
That's why I was curious why you would plan that.
That bit didn't work.
I didn't think it worked.
I like the one with the anal probe, but the other one, that one was
Rob,
weird.
I think
Yeah.
you might have been there for a couple of these shows. There were several shows that I did at Greenwich where, for whatever reason, I was introduced, I walked to the stage, and then the audience just laughed for like 4 minutes. Literally, I didn't say anything. All the comics were like running out from the back to see what the fuck was happening.
Oh, I was not there for one of these. That
Really?
sounds great.
It had
Yeah.
one time. It had to have been
I've
at
seen
least
you get
4
laughs.
minutes.
I've seen you get laughs before you've said a word,
Yeah.
and it's always been a little confusing. But then, no, I never saw a 4
There was
minute.
one time it was just about half of my set, and after the show, somebody was like, "So, like, did you plan? Does that happen? Did you plan that to? Does that happen every time? Is that part of your shtick?" I'm like, "How the fuck could I be? I'm banking on half of my set just being me, like." And then they laugh over here, and then I look, and then they laugh over there because of that, and then, that's every night. I come out and they laugh for 4 minutes. I don't even say anything. I never understood how that person thought that it was part of the show.
It is bizarre, but you've gotten good at it. Like you know what to do in that moment.
Yeah.
You know how to like milk it and look to the left, look to the right. So in a way, it does become performative, which is so. Which is
Yeah,
interesting.
but also I was trying to figure out what the fuck was
is
happening
happening?
because I didn't.
Yeah, that's
say
why he's
anything.
looking to the left and right. He's looking for what's going on.
It was
What's
weird.
happening?
But-
Imagine sending that to the Conan Booker and being like, I've got a tight 4. I can throw in a one-liner at the end, but this is
Thank you, and that's the one
it's
line.
4 minutes of silence. It's super funny though. You gotta see it.
I wish I did have it on video because it was pretty great.
I like the idea of somebody thinking that an awkward interaction with a heckler is planned, like somebody who's seen your set multiple times, then coming up to you and being like, "I didn't like your new stuff as much." Were you just like yelled at that one woman and said that she was being a drunk bitch, and then the show had to end for a couple of minutes?
Did you guys rehearse that? It seemed like you need some work.
If you put
Felt
that
like I
at the
missed
end, you
something.
could just end the show right there. You don't even have to come back. Next time, do it like that.
I would say going back before, Anthony, I agree with you. That feedback is very helpful, and it is our job to be tactful. The issue becomes when that person is like, "I'm offended, and so you should not do this anymore."
Oh yeah, I still don't like those people or any.
Yeah,
I don't.
But
think
but
that's
I
good.
if we could just go, okay, you're offended, that's fine. I'm going to remove any emotion from that, and I'm
Yeah.
going to take that as like, this is how you see it, and this is a realistic like gauge on what's going on, and
Yeah.
and how can I play with that? Then that would be great. I would have no problem with that.
So yeah, and I realized when I said that it was almost like I was saying I appreciate those people, and I don't really.
You're right.
But it does come into play, not wanting to have those kinds of interactions because it's not always just like offensive things. Sometimes it's just like people don't want to hear certain things because I've had people come up to me and they'll be like, I didn't really like that you talked about God in your, because I'm an atheist, and they're like, well, I don't really like any of the, but I don't say anything offensive. It's really just usually when I mention it, the punchline is just something about how there's no God. Like that is enough for them to be like, I don't you shouldn't do that.
Well, and I think that's totally reasonable for you to not enjoy it, but I do think it's on us as the comedians. Like I think the onus is on us to go, is this feedback, is just to consider their feedback, and then gauge whether it's helpful or that person is just simple-minded, because it could also be somebody who's like, I disagree with it, and they have a valid point, something you haven't thought about before. So you just have to consider that.
That's not usually what it is when it's a drunk person at a comedy club or whatever, but
Absolutely.
every now and then. Yeah, every now and then that.
But if you know that they're a drunk person at a club and stuff like that, you have to be like, all right, well, like you can't just, it's on us to not let it affect us emotionally.
Yeah, just like
Yeah.
hecklers, where we get good at dealing with it during the show. It's one of the parts where we don't like it, but I think it's always going to be part of it because they want to come up and tell us when they love stuff. So obviously people are going to be like, I didn't like that. And I'm going to tell you about it when this person is done taking a photo with you.
When I was the finals of the Boston Comedy Festival. I win the whole contest. I do my thing, and I decide to do the joke with my vagina rocket thing. That's how I wound up ending the set. And then I actually win the thing. I'm recording it on my phone because I was like, oh, let's record it, and it'll be a fun recording if I win. And then I'm still recording. I just get off stage, and a woman approaches me, and she says that my joke's a little gender binary, and I shouldn't be telling it. It's like I'm still like literally. I just walked off stage, winning a contest. It was like 1,000-seat theater full. I won 10 grand. And she's like, I just don't think you should be telling that joke. I was like, okay, and I have it.
Imagine what you could have won if you hadn't. It would have been so much more money.
They had 10 more grand back there.
That was very funny to me.
And that's the winner of the Boston Comedy Competition. Unfortunately, there's no ultra winner this month. Nobody qualified.
I had a very similar experience. I did round 1 and then lost. And I had to drive back to New York that night.
But your jokes that you did in that round 1, woke as hell.
Oh, they were actually.
That could have been you, Rob.
Rob, that reminds me, one time I hooked up with a girl, and after we hooked up, she said, without any irony whatsoever, do you want some notes? And I was like, sure. And she goes, I think you took off my clothes a little too quick. You seemed a little too eager. And so the next time you hook up with a girl, you should maybe take your time a little bit more. And I was like, okay, here's my counterpoint. We had sex. So what I did worked.
First of all,
Was this an
who are you?
improviser?
It was not an improviser.
Okay. You can rest the game a little bit while you're while you're racing to it. I had a woman once who I had a really good set, and she went 2 notes. Okay, number 1, because I did jokes about my dad being bad at technology. She was like, number 1, our generation invented that technology, and so I was like, okay, well then you should be better at using it. And then she went, and another note, I looked up your videos online, and you did a lot of the jokes that I saw on the videos. And I was like, well, then you shouldn't do that. I don't know what you want me to tell you. And then this guy came over and put his hand on her shoulder. He's like, isn't my wife great?
You took the words right out of my mouth, buddy.
He knew who he married, was like, yep, you're dealing with this. I'm enjoying it. Sorry, pal.
Isn't my wife great?
I kind of like the idea that people expect to only see jokes that they personally haven't heard. Like you give out a card beforehand, like who's heard this joke, who's heard this joke, and then it's supposed to mark them off. And then you go back and you put your set together based off of the things that people haven't heard.
I'll tell you from experience, they do not want to hear jokes that they haven't heard before. I got a whole bunch of weird shit. And they're like, what is he talking about? So they don't want that either.
Brett, when you came off the heels of Jarret's sex story, I thought you were going to tell a sex story, and you said when I finished my set, I was like, "Oh, that is a weird."
I think you're a little too in the weeds, Brett, of being a comedian.
So I finished my set, and this girl's like, "I got a few notes."
She's like, "You took too long," and I was like, "You didn't give me the light. What was I supposed to?"
She's like, I like that one bit you had.
The cunnilingus chunk, I would say do it again. Open with it.
But I didn't like the stuff I saw online already. Is any of this helpful, Anthony?
Yeah. I'm glad I'm recording it. No, it's fun. I mean, yeah. What's also helpful
This just turned into a regular podcast. This is what
I know.
I thought Anthony's turn was done.
Actual podcast.
It was. Yeah, it really did. That's all we needed to just reminisce about. I love that even when we still can't do real comedy in front of people, we're like, remember those fucking assholes who tried to talk to us? We don't miss it even now. We're like, this is shit. They paid to come see us. They crowded in a tiny little room. Assholes.
Man, I can't wait till there's a vaccine, right, guys? We can get back. To talking to these fucking morons all the time.
Oh, they'll be
shit
dead.
about shit.
But I lost you for a second. But it just was helpful to do that bit and hear that there were a couple points that were new, that there were some laughs and stuff, and hear where the laughs were not. So there was some good stuff in there.
Good, yeah, I like it.
Would you guys say it's maybe in a better place than last time? Okay.
Do share the music with them too.
Yeah.
Just to get a feel for how it's supposed to sound now. So
Yeah,
that was cool. That was a good experience.
I'd like it to work both ways because it'll exist as its own musical piece, but I'm sure that I'll do the lines that work in my normal act. It's sort of interchangeable, so it's good.
Cool.
But yeah, thanks.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Check back for more individual clips and full episodes every Monday, or you can listen wherever you enjoy podcasts. If you want to support the show and get access to special fan-only content, go to patreon.com/ITApod. That's ITApod as in Is This Anything Podcast. Relevant links in the description. Take care.